It is time once again for the weekly closes on our favorite Bitcoin miners. Let's see how our faves did this week. And before we get going, smash that like button, subscribe if you've been with us a while and haven't done so yet. Check out the Trade Cave store, link in the description as well as the channel bio. Let's talk about the miners. All right, so first we're going to look at CleanSpark here. So CleanSpark had that big news this week. They're up to 26 exahash. The week they are up 15.95% this week with that news coming through. Bitcoin's also been, kind to us this week by not, cratering further and in fact showing some bullishness on the chart. Anyways, for now, I don't hate this weekly close. Why don't I hate this weekly close? Let's take a look here. So we are in the bottom half of the ATR bands, excuse me. But the ATR band, the mid ATR band, is all the way up there at $15.14. Let me turn off the drawings here so we can see this a little more clearly. We came close to the bottom of this bottom ATR band. Now, notice how we almost never touched it. The only time we touched it here was January 2022, which was a pretty horrible month. The rest of the time, we never really touched it. Then January 2022 and February 2018 were really the only times we ever touched the bottom ATR band before flipping around pretty hard and going back up towards at least the yellow band. So for now, we've gotten about as close as we ever get to that bottom ATR band, and we are starting to turn around. That's nice. That's good. We're about halfway through September now. Now, September generally is considered one of the worst months of the year. So far, it's not been so bad since August was so terrible. So we're thinking maybe we get a little bit of a reprieve from that. We do have the Fed rate cuts coming in on Wednesday, so you're going to want to watch out for that. It could send us soaring, it could send us cratering. I'm not entirely sure what that's going to do, but I do have a video that I'm going to do this weekend. In fact, I'm going to do a few videos this weekend. One of them specifically is going to be looking at rate cuts, specifically 25 basis point cuts when the rate is at 550, 525 to 550. Okay, that's what I'm going to be looking at over the weekend. I've got some nice little gems there that I'm going to talk about in a video dedicated specifically to that. We're also going to do an income machine video this weekend as well. I think there's one more I wanted to do. I have to remember what it is. I've written it down somewhere. I'll look at it later. But there's a couple of videos I'm going to come out with over the weekend. You're going to get more than one a day here this weekend, I believe, because I've got quite a few things I want to talk about. Anyways, on the weekly, we're not looking too bad on CleanSpark. Now, what did I want to say that was really good here and important? This right here. Bring out my measurement tool, my ruler here. All right, right here. Boom. So that big candle here from last week, September 9th, which was a negative, can't see it. Doesn't matter. That candle, we closed this week out up over the 50% mark on that candle. So we closed out above the 50% mark on a pretty bearish candle. If next week we can hold in the top half of this candle, which is, let me draw it again, which is, let me get as close as I can, which is at $9.16, let's call it $9.15, $9.15. So as long as we can hold above $9.15 next week, and probably the week after as well, we might see something akin to what we saw back here. Now let me go over here. Some sort of formations similar to something like this, where we start above this and kind of maybe make a doji for a week and then start taking off at the end of September into October. Maybe at some point in October we'll see that. I don't know exactly, but when we see that, that is an indication that things are turning around. That's good. I like that. Notice how back here we didn't even close the gap before we dumped hard too. So getting that 50% up move on that big bearish candle, that was nice. And I would like to see us hold above $9.15 in order to stay in that kind of bullish move here on the weekly for CleanSpark. Notice that volume is dropping. Volume has been dropping since July 15th and has not been picking up yet. So once we see a big spike in volume, I am expecting to see price to really take off on CleanSpark. Now we do have some things in the way. We've got the 200-week moving average, which is currently there at 1236. That is in the way right now. We got to get above that before we even have a chance at going to the mid ATR band up there at 1514. And then, of course, we have to conquer those two before we even have a shot at the top ATR band up at $21. This Christmas season, if we get a nice Q4 rally instead of a recession, I am expecting to see CleanSpark trading somewhere in the low 30s. That is my expectation. That is what I'm hoping for. That is what I'm buying for right now. I have been accumulating CleanSpark the last couple of weeks, ever since we saw that bottom come down all the way under, ever since we've been under $9, I've been accumulating CleanSpark. Okay, because I am expecting it to come back up. at some point here in the near future. All right, let's move on to Bit Digital because that's the next on my list there. All right, Bit Digital, again, not too bad. Again, we're up a little over 50% on last week's big bearish candle that was down 23%. We are looking bearish on my MACD indicator down here. RSI is still bearish, so we're not out of the woods yet. We do need to see a next week hold above the 50% mark on last week's candle. We also would really like to see Bitcoin or Bit Digital, sorry, not Bitcoin, but Bit Digital get back above $3. That would really make us happy about the movement on this stock. This is not the first time we've seen a megaphone on Bit Digital. And in fact, I mean, look at the top of the megaphone. Just a couple of weeks out, we go for like this megaphone pattern could take us all the way up into like $6 here if it's following a similar pattern like it has before on megaphones and doesn't break to the downside. If it breaks to the downside, we're gonna have a bad time. But if it breaks to the upside, this megaphone would be really quite fantastic actually. And we've got a megaphone back here in July 2023. We had another one here in January 16th. Both of those, January 2024. Both of those did break to the downside, so that was pretty brutal. But those were both sideways ones. This one's an upward pointing one. So we haven't seen that yet out of Bit Digital, and that's very interesting right now with that stock specifically. And you can see, again, just like with CleanSpark, we've been seeing since late June, volume has been falling. So volume's just been dropping. Once we see volume come back in to play here and it ramps, it starts ramping up. When volume starts ramping up again, that's when we're going to get these big blow off tops on the miners. So for right now, we're in accumulation zone right now. And of course, none of this is financial advice or a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. I am in accumulation zone right now. I have been accumulating the things that I want to have more of right now. This is the time. Okay, the time is now. Let's look at Bitfarms. How's Bitfarms doing? Ooh, that's so many drawings. Let me go ahead and just boop, goodbye. That was way too many drawings. I was getting a little too excited there. All right, so we came down to 177-ish here last week. We had a down week of 11%, 17%. This week we were up 13% almost. We are in the top half of this bearish candle here, so that's good. Again, just like the other ones. The one thing I'd like to say that is a distinct difference in Bitfarms compared to CleanSpark and Bit Digital so far is that volume this week has been higher, significantly higher than it has been for a little while now. So that is pretty fantastic. That's what we want to see. Next week, we need to see price on Bitfarms get back above $2. Oh, sorry, back above two. It is above $2. Haha, back above 215. It's got to get up above 215 and hold above 215. Then we have a shot at the mid ATR band at 251 and the 200-week moving average up there at 267. Once we conquer those two things, 340, here we come. And of course, what I'm thinking for Bitfarms for the Christmas rally, I am looking for something around $5-6. That's what I'm looking. I'm looking for about 5-6 for Bitfarms here around Christmas time, assuming they hit all their marks, assuming Bitcoin gets picked up, assuming Bitcoin, does a bit of a moon rally as well. Let's move on to Mara. Mara is actually same sort of situation. They're all sitting in the same kind of situation here. But notice the Mara's volume's not much better than last week or the week before. It hasn't really, not like Bitfarms, where Bitfarms showed a distinct height in the volume compared to the last couple weeks. Is kind of in line with Mara here. But we almost got a bullish engulfing candle. Oof, it was so close. That's good though. What we want to see is next week we want to see price get up and above 1641 and then above the 200-week moving average at 1852, and then we've got to contest with the mid ATR band at $20.25. That is where we might find some weakness. Now, what we're looking at Mara here though is a double bottom. We got a bottom here and a bottom here, and our neckline is right there at that 1870, like right at the 200-week moving average is where the neckline for that double bottom is, right at that. Geez, that's so many lines. When did I get this many lines in the chart? I need to delete some of these lines. So let's go ahead and just delete some of these lines. These are just outrageous. Let's see. Let me get rid of this one. Let me get rid of this one. Let me get rid of this one. I'll keep 17. No, I'm getting rid of that one. I'm getting rid of this one. Too many lines. All right, that's good. All right. Yeah, we need to get above the neckline here, which is at the 200-week moving average at 1852. We got to get above that. Once we're above that, we'll get back into that most traded zone for Mara, which is at that 1980 level. That is where we're going to probably run into some issues for Mara potentially. Let's turn on the volume profile and see what we see over there. Volume profile, let's turn that on for the week. Yeah, so we're hitting an area where we're just tons of volume in our way. Mara really needs to get up and above $21 before it's like bullish. You can also see that we've got a bit of a trend line that we're following down this way right now, too, that we need to conquer as well. But we're close to that. But man, if we don't get up above 16, above this candle here at 1640 something, 1650-ish, if we can't get up and hold above that next week, we are coming all the way back down to the lows on tomorrow. So that's pretty brutal. I'm not looking too like, I like the way it looks, but it is a bullish candle, but it needs to get back inside of this channel, and it needs to get back above 1980 before Mars really doing anything. Let's look at the volume profile on the other three real quick. Bit farms is, yeah, it's just in the center of a ton of volume. So like we're basically in like a gridlock zone for like all of them, aren't we? Bit farms, is Bit farms above it? Nope, it's also in the center of like this gridlock here. What about Clean Spark? Clean Spark, is it? Oh, Clean Spark isn't like this no man's land where it could go like either way. It could come all the way down to $5 or it could go all the way up to 16 almost. Clean Spark, ooh, that's interesting. All right, anyways, let's move on to Riot. So we're done with Mara. Let's look at Riot. Riot is doing all this kind of stuff, all this funky things here. So we did get, again, a nice bullish candle for it for the week for Riot. We need to see next week get above 741 and hold above 741. However, volume has been falling on Riot, so that's not good. We are right at support, though. Our support is 650. Anything below 650, we're going to have a very, very bad time on Riot. Riot has room from where it currently is. If it stays bullish, it can get above this little, get above this previous little bear flag here. If we can get above that little bear flag there, which is 743, 743, then we have room all the way up to about 950 on Riot. Otherwise, we are looking like we could revisit the lows at 650 if we cannot get up above that in a week or two. And if we break 650, we're just going to have the worst time ever. So just let's not do that. All right, so that is Riot. Mid ATR bands up at 1008, but we got a lot of volume in the way before we get there. And the top ATR bands up at 1383. Honestly, for the Christmas rally, the highest I see Riot potentially getting is like $17 at the highest high, and that's assuming Riot like really knocks that out of the park in Q4. Which honestly, they're not setting themselves up for a home run in Q4 to the way they've been running lately. So they really gotta get it together. Let's take a look at Iren. Iren, I like Iren too. I still like Iren. It still looks good to me. Let's see, volume profile. We don't have a volume profile on the weekly for some reason for Iren. I don't understand why, so I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to deal with it. Okay. Anyways, Iren also looks like it's making a double bottom. We got a bottom, bottom, boop, we get above 872-ish, 875. We have room all the way up to about $11 on Iren. I am positive on my Iren. How many of you are positive on your Iren? How many people let it fall when I said it was going to fall, picked it up down here under like $8, under $7, $8, and are sitting in profit now? I'm sitting in profit now. I even sold on that on earnings day. I sold on the earnings day when they popped up, and I sold about like 920, 925-ish. Half of the bag I had bought under $7, and then I bought another half of my bag. I re-upped my half a bag down at 650. So I'm pretty happy with Iren. I was buying all the way down from like $10 all the way to 620. And then I let it come up to like 9 something, and then I sold half for a profit, and then I came back in and bought that half back, and then some down under $7 again. So Iren I've been doing very well with. I've been enjoying Iren quite a lot here for this downturn here. I am looking for Riot to return to this top ATR band sometime around Christmas, which would be like that $13, $14 range. I'm thinking I might cycle through it at that point again, and sell it off, but maybe I'll let it come up a little higher. We'll see. We'll see what price does at like $14, $15. If it struggles, I might let it go and wait for it to come back down again. If it continues to perform strong, staying above the 5-week moving average at that point, or even the 5-day moving average, I might be watching just the daily on that. Then I just keep holding on to it, let it keep running. Anyways, Iron's got to break this trend line here. Okay, it's got to break that trend line. Then it's got to get above this neckline for the double bottom at 875. Once it's over that, then we have room all the way up to the mid ATR band at 953, which may be an issue, may not be an issue. And then after we have crossed that, we won't run into a lot of trouble until we get up just over $11. To the downside, we need to stay above the mid level up. We need to stay above $7. That's it. $7 is the line in the sand for me on Iren. It's got to stay above $7. Below $7, I am still accumulating, but I will be accumulating a little bit at a time, expecting it to continue to drift down until it finds support, potentially all the way down at 520-ish. Okay, so that's what we're looking at for Iren. Potentially could move all the way up to 1126 in a heartbeat. If we lose $7, we could find ourselves back at 520 also in a heartbeat. All right, so let's move on to Corz. How's Corz doing? Wow, Corz is the most bullish thing on the chart again. Look at this thing. Absolute bullish engulfed the last 2 weeks of bearish action. We got above this area here, this yellow line, that 1087, which was that line of like, if it gets above this, it's going to go higher. If it holds above 1087 next week, this thing's going to test its all-time highs again at 1222. And that's it. That's all I got to say about Corz. Corz is looking fantastic. It's been looking fantastic for a while now, and it just does not want to quit looking fantastic. That is Corz. It's just looking fantastic. Let's take a look at Wulf. Wulf. Oh yeah, we got a nice volume profile on Wulf now. Look at that. All right, so Wulf made a higher high. I like that. We need to get above 496 to confirm this as a double bottom. This is looking like a double bottom, just like Mara, just like Iren. Okay. Looks great. We came to the 200-week moving average, bounce off of that real hard. We are struggling right now to get above and stay above the mid ATR band at 429. We need to get above that. Once we get above that, we have room to the neckline of the double bottom at 496. Above 496, we come back to test the all-time highs again. Is that the all-time highs? Cycle highs, not all-time highs, cycle highs. We come back to test the cycle highs around 650 on Wulf in that scenario. We take out, though, if we lose 360, we're coming back down to 330, potentially even 284. Or the 200-week moving average if we lose 360. So we don't want to lose 360 on Wulf, or we're coming down. If we can take out the mid ATR band at 429, we're going to test the neckline of the double bottom. If we can cross above the neckline of the double bottom without getting rejected at $5, we have room all the way up to 650 on Wulf. So Wulf is looking pretty good, and there's no, we're above. We are above. Right over here, we are above the volume profile on Wulf. We are not stuck in gridlock like we are on CleanSpark, Bitdigital, Bitfarms, and Mara. We're not stuck in any of that volume gridlock on Wulf. Wulf is free and clear to move up in terms of volume not being in its way on the way up. So yeah, it's looking good. And you can see volume right here, 381 is where the volume drops off, and then there's a big pocket all the way down to 255 for that on the volume. So watch those levels. 360 is your level. To the downside, to the upside, $5 is where we need to get above. All right, let's move on to, let's look at Hut. Let's look at Hut real quick. How's Hut? Hut also nice, big, bullish candle today, big engulfing it, even went up about 50% on the 2 weeks ago. From the candle 2 weeks ago, that was down 19.5%. We went up to about the 50% mark on that. We got a little stopped about right there, so that's a little bit concerning. We do need to get above that overall. But we are stuck a little bit in the gridlock of this volume profile. We are stuck in here. We got to get slightly higher. We got to get above 1167. Once we're above 1167, we have room to run to the neckline here for this double bottom on Hut, which is also forming a double bottom. We got our bottom one, bottom two. We need to get above that red line there, above that red line. Once we're above that red line, we have crossed the neckline and we are moving our way up, and we are outside of this volume gridlock that we're currently in. And once we get above that, we've got room all the way up to about $17, $18 on Hut. And honestly, support is where we are. Support is where we came from, $9. That's pretty much the low. Any lower than that, and Hut's going to have like the most horrific time you can imagine. Also, this is very nice. Look at Hut. We've got an inverted head and shoulders right here. Shoulder, head, shoulder. We get up and above this area here, which is way too high, up above $21. That's when we're going to go make our new all-time highs all the way. That's where we're going to get into the 30s and 40s on Hut. Look at that though, big inverted head and shoulders. Just shoulder, head, shoulder, and we get above that $21 area, and boy, are we going to take off on Hut. That is pretty cool. I don't know what I just did. Go away. All right, here we go. Let's move on to Cifr. Let's take a look at Cifr real quick. How is Cifr looking? Cifr's not looking great. Not too good. Now, it's right at the 50 level. So unlike with some of the other ones that we saw that got above that 50 level on the bearish one, let me see. Did we get above it? Barely. It's teetering right on the 50% level of that big bearish candle. That's a bit concerning for Cifr. I don't like that. That's not, I would like to see it be a little bit higher than that. That does concern me. That does make it feel less bullish in terms of this candle, especially considering this volume is barely any higher than that volume for that. Like that candle had like barely any volume filled. This candle has slightly higher volume, like maybe 10% higher or something. But it barely moved up, meaning there's a lot of selling pressure keeping this thing down from moving up higher on Cifr. So Cifr I'm a little bit concerned about. It needs to break this green line here. Once it breaks that green line, I have confidence that it's likely to move up into like the $4 range, but it's probably going to get stuck there because there's a ton, like, I mean, I drew it already here. This box right here between 446 and 380, there's a ton of resistance right there. And I don't know, where's the volume profile on this one? I guess it's not showing up. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's got to get up there. It's got to get above some of that volume. Let me see here. Honestly, yeah, this candle right here. It's got to cross minimum. It's got to cross 422 to get above that big piece of volume there from August 12th on the weekly. And then once we break this line, it should be pretty dramatic in terms of its move up towards like $5. But until then, until it fights its way up above 420, 430, it doesn't have a shot. It doesn't have a chance until it does that. Right now, we're still in a very aggressive downtrend on Cifr, and it doesn't look like it has a lot of life in it to move up. Let's also look at MicroStrategy real quick. I'm going to add MicroStrategy this week to the weekly closes. Okay, MicroStrategy. Not tons of volume to the right, more than there would be down here. Like if we went back below 125, I wouldn't be surprised to see us come all the way back down to like $100 on the volume profile if we were to do that. So that's good. We got above that. We did a big green engulfing candle. We also went up to just above the 50% line on the candle from 2 weeks ago as well. So that's actually a really good candle. If we can hold above 133, I would not be surprised to see MicroStrategy testing, potentially defeating the mid ATR band up there at 148.66 next week. That would be pretty fantastic. Now, of course, we've got the Fed meeting next week, so that's a little bit concerning. Got the Fed meeting. That's going to be a little bit scary. If they do anything to scare the market, that is absolutely going to reverse. And in fact, it's going to make this head and shoulders play out that I just saw. So we got a shoulder, a head, and we came down and we're making another shoulder. And if we if the Fed scares us, that's going to make the other shoulder, and it's going to come all the way back down, probably to like $70, $80 on MicroStrategy if the Fed decides to scare us. So let's hope that the Fed cooperates, does what they're supposed to do, gives us our 0.25% rate cut, and ensures us everything is just fine and according to plan, and doesn't do anything to surprise us, and that no other governments do anything to surprise us with their policies either, and that Bitcoin continues to just charge its way up, and then we'll see MicroStrategy also just charge its way up and not do that head and shoulders and take us all the way back down to like $75. That would be pretty bad for my puts on MicroStrategy. Anyways, that's all I've got for you in this episode. Look forward to those other episodes coming out this weekend. And before we go, smash that like button. Subscribe if you've been with us a while and haven't done so yet. Share this video. Check out the Trade Cave store, link in the description as well as the channel bio, and have a profitable day.